Hello everyone, and welcome. Yes, my name is Arrowfire, suffering with hay fever at the moment. So we're going to carry on with the theme that we've been doing of toy reviews recently and rambling through to Cang Toys reviews. Today we will be reviewing Cang Toys CHIYOU-02 Landbull. This is their version of a G1 Predacon Tantrum. And of course, as I mentioned in the previous video for Rampage, this is not inspired by Generation 1 at all. Cang Toys very much going down the stylized route. And for those of you who watched my last video, you'll know my views on this by now, that these are very Zoids inspired, not really G1 inspired, and that's okay. It's fine to come away from G1. Sometimes I think holding to G1 too much holds back a figure, holds back the imagination, holds back the design. Now, there's extremes in every angle. It's not to say that this does that, but anyway, let's get into it. So first, looking at the box, you can see some very nice deco on the Beast mode, and as you turn around, you see some very nice art deco of the robot mode as well. And it is a very lovely box, maybe same size or slightly bigger than Rampage's was, but the interior is much the same. So again, you have this lovely black polystyrene interior, which comes out to reveal instructions, as well as his sword, and this is a much more streamlined sword, and as I mentioned in the previous video with Rampage, it was a much more curved sword. I believe all of these swords are going to form together and sharp objects to make a super sword for the Predacons when it's all said and done. The same can, I think, be said for his gun, which as you pull out here you can see is very much a chunky pistol, a big old bolt blaster. And I quite like it. I like the hench design. Again, I think we are led to believe that these will all form a big gun for Predacons when it's all said and done. But for accessories, that's largely it. He does come with two exterior horns for the Beast mode. They are detached in packaging, but we'll see that when we get in closer. He does also come with his collector's card, which has a load of stats on the back that I cannot read. I will say at this point, this was the figure that really drew me into the set. When I saw the release for Rampage, as much as I'm a big fan of the Predacons, I wasn't really invested by that stage. We knew very little of this Cang Toys structure and to how it was going to play out. And when I saw the first offering of Rampage, I wasn't that impressed. When I saw Landbull alongside Rampage, it really caught my attention. I thought the design was great. It really captured the character, the essence of the character. And I thought, okay, I'll backtrack now. I'll go into this set, and I actually got both of the figures together, Rampage and Tantrum, at the same time, which I got second hand. I did very well for the price, all things considered, because now they're really moving on with the set. But enough of that, let's get in for a closer look, shall we? And here he is in his robot mode, and my god if I don't love that mold. This just looks so warlord-like, so intimidating. This is where I really feel you can get a right balance of stylized and G1, because this isn't G1. It doesn't really look like him at all, but look at the accents on the forearms, the fact that they look like heavy-duty fists, clubbing fists that he can wield around. The legs are so incredibly sturdy. They're fun for transformation, but stuff does tab in. I just love this big hulking presence. Now, one thing I want to say is for the robot mode of Landbull versus the robot mode of the Rampage, the figure I reviewed before, this tidies up a lot better. Simple things like the tail. On the Rampage one, that didn't really go anywhere, and actually the instructions told you to have it hanging down in robot mode. This completely cascades up, tabs into itself, and plugs away with maybe this thing sticking out a little bit, but far more tidier. There were noticeable improvements. Now again, I've mentioned the light piping, but at least it makes sense here. I don't know if the camera's going to show it, but there's a whole back of his head is going to be clear, meaning the light can get through, and you'll see as he comes round again, as it goes through the back of the head, it will come through the front of the eyes. At least there is now a gap to do that. That is, okay, obscured by the Beast head, but which is way more than what the Rampage figure has. So you can see noticeable design improvements. There is squeakiness to the joints in this figure, but not as much as there was and what there sadly will be. I just really love it. I love this kind of hulking presence, the fact that he's effectively a bully. He's a bull. He's, Tantrum, and this is very much his character accentuated and personified. But let's get in for a closer look. Now, as much as I love this mould, and I do, the feet are interesting. They try and house a lot of the Beast mode in it. So trying to get him to stand up, whilst it's not impossible, certainly for going on the turntable like I had him on there, was a bit awkward. If it's on a flat surface, the front of the feet actually take a lot of the brunt of the weight. But if you try and get him on a very finicky surface, like a rotating table, maybe his weight, to which there is a lot, maybe that plays against him. But it is just a really good figure. If I bring it in closer, you can just see some of the characteristics. The neck doesn't want to tab in as well. It can come up very easily. It's supposed to peg in. So that's one thing, but it does give it a good bit of articulation to it. And again, you can really see the light piping working well there. There is some shoulder clearance issues, but there is a lot of rotation here because you've effectively got a butterfly joint tucked in underneath, and good rotation at the wrist on the friction, very tight friction top of the arm, and full finger articulation as well. So this is where we're going to start to see a lot of similarities, I think, for the rest of the Cang Toys moulds. Leg joints are incredibly stiff, heavy ratchets, maybe too heavy, but I think that's going to be with the combined mode in mind. Well, one thing I don't like, and this will become the neck of the beast mode, is these flaps here. They don't go anywhere, to my knowledge. I've had a look through the instructions and I can't see anywhere you really can tidy them up. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's a shame how everything else either fans out or tucks in or wraps around, and you've got these two square panels here at the back not going anywhere. But maybe that's the only thing I could be critical about it. It actually does clean up really well. And there he is, all weaponed up to the nines. I just love that. I do think the sword is a bit skinny though. I think that's a bit of a shame. Doesn't really suit the character. I actually think he would suit an axe more than anything else. The gun is beastly. That is a big gun, but again, I think it really suits his character, really suits his personality. I just love things like the expression, the angriness. He's a bull, he's Tantrum, he's a temper, and he will fight you if you just look at him wrong. And for a comparison, here he is against my last review, which was the Cang Toys Rampage, and you can see, whilst these weren't far apart, you can see changes being made, even to the colouring. Whilst this is predominantly red and he is predominantly orange, there is changes to density of applications. The details used on some of them is broadly similar, but you can see changes, and there is heft changes as well. But again, this is going to be an arm of the combined mode. This is going to be the leg. So Cang Toys do have an idea of where they're going. I think they got a bit more further forward, obviously, with the more later release. But that's how they look side by side. And last comparison I did for Rampage was alongside Galvatron, so this time here he is alongside Fans Toys Quietus Cyclonus. Again, a bit more of the Season 3 era here on display. But two different companies, two different approaches. One's very G1, one isn't. But it doesn't look a million miles out of place. And here he is in his beast mode. Now, I didn't enjoy the transformation, and I'm not convinced I've done it right. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at it now, I'm sure I haven't. The shoulders, you can see the gap there. The instructions weren't entirely clear for me, but there is too much open gap there for my liking, but I can't really work out how they're supposed to go back in. But I have only transformed this a couple of times. Maybe it's something I just need to work a bit harder on. Nevertheless, I think it looks great. It's a shame that bits don't really want to tab in. I find the neck from transformation quite gappy under here. You really have to fold stuff out and winch the head back in. I find that annoying. I do find the transformation troubling. But I love how it looks. I love the head sculpt. I love the silver accents on the shoulders. These look really good as well, but I don't like that. I don't like the fact that stuff doesn't really lock in. It's very flappy and fiddly. It's not to say anything's necessarily loose, although that would beg to differ. I just don't think it's very tidy, or maybe I just haven't done a tidy job of it. Nevertheless, I've only transformed this a couple of times. But I love how it looks. I love the orange being the dominant colour for the back of it. I love the red. The red actually being a really subtle colour in this. I did mention with the Rampage review that the red is the dominant colour really on that figure, and as it's quite a cherry red, a metallic red, like this red is as well, it can look quite dull unless you really get some strong light on it. With the red here not being the strong colour, it doesn't matter so much. Again, we're back to the light piping for Cang Toys. They just really want to go down that route. The eyes can look a little bit dead. There's nothing to really get the light in behind the head to make the eyes pop, which again, I think is a bit of a miss. But I do really love it. I love how it looks. I love that kind of aggressive stance, the big front legs really going out on a split to hold a charging pose. It just looks really, really good. Maybe the tail's a bit on the small side if I'm being picky, but yeah, transformation isn't that fun. Again, I'm not convinced that I've done it right myself. That's not to say I'm going to dock the figure some points, but we'll dock some points for it, but I'm happy to admit user error. But let's get in for a closer look. So one thing I really do like is the thing like the head movement on there. You do get good head articulation for some more quizzical poses. Even things like the mouth can close or open up. It's a little bit on the stiff side. Again, you can see that winching in of the neck I was talking about. Even things like the nose ring that moves up and down. I like that. It's just small things they didn't have to do, but I really do like that they did. I love the fact that the horns can be rotated as well to get a bit more accent. There's actually quite a lot of character to this character. There's a lot of presence to it. And a lot of that is going to be down to its sculpting and its articulation and its colours. I just think it's really good. I just wish the light piping just doesn't do it for me. In certain angles, the eyes just look dead. But I do think it's got very good tolerances to it on the legs. And you can get into some wonderful poses. I'll put some pictures up at the end. Underside cleans up well enough. You can tell there's a butt under there, I suppose, because you can see the torso and the waist, but other than that, it's pretty good. I just hate that flapping thing at the back. It's really hefty. There's a lot to it. It's just, I'm not convinced I've done everything right or tabbed everything in. I've just tried to do a little bit off camera there with the front shoulders, but that's tidied up a little better. That side, not so much. So whilst it's possibly down to me not interpreting the instructions correctly, I don't think it's the cleanest transformation you'll see. So what are my final thoughts on Landbull then? Well, I really love how it looks in both modes. I really think this captures a big Predacon bull so well. It's so heavy. It's got such attention and care to it that the Cang Toys, they really do apply this to their figures. There is great paint, there is great die cast, there is joint squeakiness, which I think is just going to be a theme throughout and we're just going to have to accept it. But presentation is really, really good, and this one really captures it for me. I think in robot mode it looks really beefy. I think he looks really intimidating. Same really for the beast mode. How could you say not? I don't enjoy the transformation. It's one that I found the most hard to follow, even using the instructions, and I don't believe I did it right fully. But after a while of stuff tapping on and off, doesn't quite lock in. That's a shame. That does dock this figure some points, as much as I love the look of it. And if you're not going to be transforming these things back and forward, as Masterpiece collectors generally don't, if you're just going to present them and get them into photographs and poses, or poses for photographs, then maybe that's fine. Maybe that's what you need. I think the stability, the sturdiness will really be tested when it's going to be in combined mode, which again, I haven't put it in. I will not put it in until I do the combined video when all characters are released. But that's where we'll really see the tolerance and testament to this character. It's got to take the leg. It's going to take all of the weight on top of this onto the wolf feet that's going to come out. And that will be interesting to see if the sturdiness really is correctly placed or misplaced. But based on everything that I've gone through, I'm going to give this 3.5 Rodimus star badges. It's really good, and I do feel maybe I've been a bit too critical to it, but the transformation is awkward, and it really does fight you in some cases, or it doesn't give you the freedom that, say, with their Rampage, the first offering was much more simplistic, even though the legs on that were a bit fiddly. This I found unnecessarily difficult for what it really is. I think some of these things that just flop on and off, that irritates me. But presentation, I love it. The paint, I love it. The heft, I love it. And it does look great in both modes. It's a bit of the Fans Toys conundrum, I think. They're not exactly known, Fans Toys, for having simple transformation, but they are known for looking good in both modes. And I think this is where this falls into that category too, albeit a different company. And there we go, that is my review of Cang Toys Landbull, their version of Tantrum. I'll put some photos up at the end for you guys to have a closer look. But thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.